G'day everyone, welcome to Roo Hammer Season 2, Episode 40 and our Round 25 review of the Warriors' loss to the Gold Coast Titans. Thank you so much everyone who's joined us live, Facebook and YouTube. Mate, happy Father's Day for Sunday, by the way. How was your day?
Same to you, mate. My day was
Thanks, buddy.
My day was probably a lot less enjoyable than yours, and you witnessed a shellacking at the footy. But
Thanks for reminding me.
Very hard for me. It's the first Father's Day I haven't got to see any of my kids because of the lockdowns. My youngest daughter sent me some cakes from a cake company. So that was nice. I got to scoff them down. Yeah, mate. But aside from that, it was really not much of a big weekend. Considering what we're going through. But like I said, mate, you attended the game. How was your Father's Day? You got to attend a bit of a function beforehand. We were invited by Big Tukes. I couldn't get up there for that, obviously, but you went along. How was that?
That's it, mate. Yeah, Warrior number 76 himself, Big Mark Tukey, a good friend of the show, our first ever former player that we had on. Yeah. So, yep. Yeah, so always great to catch up with him. He's a top bloke. He's always good value. So we're lucky enough to attend that function at the Dog and Parrot at Robina there. And, it's great to catch up with him. And always great to get his thoughts on the game, the modern game, and all the current issues that are going on. What he thinks about the Warriors and, just reminiscing about the past, about 2002 glory days.
Every time we see him, he looks fitter and fitter, doesn't he?
Oh, he does. And Sunday was no exception. He looked like he'd just run a marathon. He's in prime nick. He's still doing a lot with his golf. He's got the Tukes Cup, as I think I was telling you on. So I know the Big Tukes Cup. So
tell everyone the story about the green jacket.
Yeah, so he's got a green jacket made up. Like in golf how you have the blazers and everything. He was showing me. He had this lime green jacket all made up, especially for the winner of the Tukes Cup and all that sort of thing. But he had to buy it as a suit. So he showed me the picture of himself wearing this lime green suit. Oh man, it was sexy as anything, I'm telling you. And so he threw the pants away and got the jacket made up. But it was a great lunch there. Good to meet Rachel, his partner as well, and they had all their kids there, being Father's Day, and it was just great to be invited to that. And
mate, he's a beautiful man. He's got a beautiful family. I briefly got to meet Rachel at Magic Round when he came for the Magic Round day, but got to spend a bit of time with his daughters.
They were there as well. They're great kids, and they are. Yeah, they're good value.
I just want to say quickly to those that have commented so far, g'day to TK from New Zealand, tuning in as always. How are you, bro?
TK, just before what's more talking about TK, mate, you are a true fan. I saw on Monday you fronted up to work, decked out in Warriors gear and a face mask. Mate, tip of the cap to you. Mate, I would not have been that brave after Sunday's game. So, mate, you are the original and the best super fan.
Yeah, he might work with Tigers fans though, so it might have been all right. Marky Roberts has tuned in. Victor Kiwi. Christian has tuned in as well, and my mum's there. Hey, mum, how are you? Hope you're doing well.
Welcome everyone.
But like you said, mate, shout out to Father's Day for everybody. Big, good day. I hope everyone had a good day. Oh, the Kirch is in. Here we go. The Kirch.
G'day, Kirch.
Big show. Well, mate, I reckon we need to get into this review. I'm prepared. I've got a beer ready. I'm treating it like it's Mad Monday.
There's something that I need to bring to everyone's attention. I'm sure a lot of people knew this, but at the game, when we walked into the stadium, they were giving away these things, and I'm wondering if you can tell me what this is.
Looks like a pair of board shorts.
Mate, I was just going to say they were giving out this because it was officially the last game for the Don, and I was just going to say they came with a pair of these. So This is going to be a collector's item one day. The Don mask. So it was, shout out to the Don. What they call him on Triple M? Gold Coast Colourful Identity Tony Don. Shout out to you. He's been a good servant to the club, and could score a try, especially against us. So all the best with your retirement. I think he might be going back to. Is he going back to Grafton? Back to the Grafton Ghosts.
Back to Grafton Ghosts. He was a weird one, a strange one, because he made his debut so late. Like I think he was
late bloomer.
Yeah, late bloomer. He only played like 2013, I think. So he's only played like 7 seasons. But he's their highest try scorer. He scored 85 tries for the club. Been a great servant for the Gold Coast Titans. So yeah, we congratulate him and wish him luck, mate. There's a lot of guys retiring this weekend. Probably one that I would want to give a shout out to. Obviously, he doesn't watch a show, but you never know. Once sound bites go out there, he might see it. Is Alex Glenn been a great champion of the game up there in for the Broncos, a Kiwis rep, played for the Kiwis, also represented Cook Islands at a World Cup. He's a fabulous player, very versatile, and always gave 100%. And we'll get into the games a bit later, but it was great to see the Broncos, put on a performance for him in his last game on the weekend.
Exactly right. Great club man, very popular man here in Brisbane.
Yep.
Yeah, well, obviously, round 25 game against the Gold Coast Titans at nowhere else other than Sheba Super Stadium. The Warriors 0 versus the Titans 44. Warriors tries to no one, goals to no one. And Titans tries 2 to Fafita, 2 to Campbell, Rain, Kelly, Herbert, and Fodawaker, and Jamal Fogarty 6 from 8. Mate, take us through it.
Mate, hey, Stevie Williams. Yeah, bro, I've got the Eden Park jersey on tonight. Mate, the Warriors went into this final game of the season with just the one change. Thankfully, Jazz Tavanga was called into the lineup and Cody Nikarima dropped back to 18th man, which for me was still another weird selection. I don't know. Not that I think Cody would have made a difference in the 44 points, but mate, I'm not one to bag players and that, but yeah, Cody being dropped for 6 missed tackles last week probably makes sense, but then you've got Bailey Sirenen coming into the side with 11 missed tackles. So, I thought we started with great energy, and we nearly come up with a try at the end of the first set. We had Montoya contesting a Reece Walsh bomb. He wins the contest. He passes to CHT, who finds Aitken, and he has the ball dislodged as he's going over the line. So, we score a try there. Maybe, could have changed the way the game went. But then at the other end of the field, the Titans then go close. They were unlucky not to get a penalty, really, for Petahiku tackling Jaden Campbell before he had the ball. Ashley Klein missing that one. So it's always nice when we get a nice early 50-50 call go our way. But I thought it was a sign of things to come, but it wasn't.
Yeah, about that. Yeah, we went close again though. After that, we had a penalty to put us inside the Titans' half, but Matt Lodge lost control of the ball, trying to reach out to the line, and bit of a theme of the afternoon. I think just no patience again.
Yep.
The Titans then get inside our half on the back of a set restart, and Jaden Campbell puts in a little opportunist try, puts in a little grubber to score next to the posts. And after that, it was kind of like end-to-end stuff for the first 10 minutes. And the Titans then back up with a good set after points as well, and a well-placed bomb, and they were able to force a dropout on us.
Yeah, and then Tyrone Peachy goes close to scoring, but the chosen one knocks the ball loose, denying him the opportunity. And then Ciro gets put in a really dangerous position from a Jamal Fogarty tackle, lands on the point of his shoulder.
Yeah, could have gone badly, that one.
Yeah, he goes off. And then the set after the penalty is poor set with very little direction, I thought we just had nothing. But then we had Ewan Aitken leave the field with a hamstring injury. And that pretty much made 2 back rowers off within minutes of each other. But, luckily, I guess, for interchange purposes only, not so much for game performance. Sirenen is past fit to return to the game, so, he wasn't out. But we lost Ewan Aitken for that whole game.
Yeah, no, it was a big loss, and we continued to hand over a bit of cheap possession. And something I noticed we kept trying was like passing between the forwards, between AFB and Lodge. I don't know why we were persisting with that, but anyway, Lodge ends up with throwing a forward pass early in the tackle count, and it enables the Titans to go back on the attack inside our half. But luckily, Tino was a bit overzealous, and he loses the ball close to the line. But once again, in the ensuing set, we hand over cheap possession inside our half on tackle 3, putting the Titans back on the attack again, and repeat penalties enabled the Titans to build on the Warriors line, the pressure, and Mitch Rain scores like a very easy and soft try from dummy half. Not the first time he's done that to us. He always used to get us at the Dragons. I remember the Dragons, he always score against us from dummy half just like that.
Yeah. Despite bombing 2 early try-scoring opportunities, it's pretty poor opening 20 minutes from the Warriors. We had just very poor ball security. We didn't have much ball at all either, but what ball we did have, we weren't holding on to. We were turning over pretty cheaply. Shaun O'Sullivan had a bit of a wrist injury at one point there. He falls awkwardly, shadowing the ball over the dead ball line. But luckily enough, he was able to continue. And then a drop ball from Jermaine Tanoa-Brown, and then a drop ball on tackle 1 from a scrum. And that the ball security was just absolutely abysmal in that opening half of footy. As I said, we had 37 possession in the first 30 minutes, and we just allowed the Titans to continue building pressure and playing the game inside our half.
Oh, that was it exactly. We were stuck, and we did get a successful captain's challenge though. We did get something go our way that in that period and relieve some of the pressure, but we're still playing from inside our half, as you were saying, and not completing our sets has prevented us from being able to shift the momentum and build any pressure through a kicking game. Yeah. And the Titans go 3 tries up from a David Fafita try set up from another Jaden Campbell run, and our defence, we just couldn't shut down the second phase play at all.
No, TK makes a good point. He says everything we did well all season, we just didn't do. We just lost the plot, and the more we tried, the worse we got. And I agree with that.
Yeah.
It took us 37 minutes to actually get a good kick, a good fifth tackle kick into the corner to finish the set. But what we do that, and then the Titans go 100 metres again and earn a forced dropout. And then we do a short dropout, and Rocco Berry gets the ball back, luckily, kind of relieving a bit of pressure. But then we knock on. This time it was Dallin giving the Titans one last opportunity to score points before half-time. But luckily, Rocco Berry comes up with a save, cleaning up a peachy grubber. And the Titans leading 16-0. I thought that we put in probably the worst 40 minutes of the season, but in saying that, they were only up 16-0. So I thought that if we could come out and we could, put that half behind us and, play a decent 40 minutes of footy, we're in with a chance. I mean, we've shown in the past couple of weeks that a 10-0, 16-0 score at halftime against us is nothing. We can score points, we can come back from that. But unfortunately...
Yeah. I knew that 16-0 halftime score sounded vaguely familiar. Let's just flip it. I mean, if that was us up 16-0 at halftime, there's not a Warriors fan drawing breath that would have been confident with that lead. Anyway, 40% possession and only 56% completions. And the Titans with 9 more completed sets in the first half. So there you go. And the Titans come out playing like a team that wants to play finals footy. And Fafita gets his second try, burrowing over from dummy half. Early in the second period to extend their lead. And at that point, for me, I just wanted to see us play out the final 30 minutes of the season, just show a bit of pride in the jersey and play with a bit of conviction.
100%. Mark Roberts has said when CHT comes out in the interview before the game and says that there was nothing to play for, the team had obviously switched off. I agree. Yeah.
It's not a good look. It's not a good look. To say that before the game, to actually verbalise that. I didn't realise he'd said that, but there you go.
Yeah.
Explains a lot.
We get Matt Lodge back on the field, and immediately he has a bit of an impact. And we get over in the corner through DWZ, but that last pass ruled forward. And again, the replay showing the referee and touch judge got that one wrong. There definitely wasn't a forward pass. I'm not saying that could have changed the game, but scoring points then at that point in the game could have been crucial to us mounting some sort of comeback, having a bit of confidence. You know, the next set, the Titans line the Warrior. The next set at the Titans line, we showed no real structure or shape, and it looked as if our confidence was gone. We get Origami Evans gets put on report for leading with his elbows when he's carrying the ball, and that wasn't a good look at all. And the Titans turned possession into immediate points with a try to Brian Kelly. But going back to that Origami Evans, mate, when we played the Cowboys this year, Tamalolo did the exact same thing and hit Ben Murdoch-Masila in the jaw, and Murdoch-Masila went off, and we didn't get a penalty.
That's right. There was something familiar about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, it's the inconsistencies. You know, and people may say, oh, you know, Warriors supporters, they always cry about bad decisions. But, I mean, we can back up these bad decisions with video evidence to show two identical tackles in two different rounds of footy. One is the player goes off like with a bleeding face and doesn't return, and the guy who did it can play the ball and play on. And then our guy gets, you know, penalised, and now he's facing 5 weeks on the sideline next year for that. So...
yeah, it is kind of bad when you can put like a little highlights package of all that kind of stuff. Highlights, I say, in inverted commas. Yeah. Well, Matt Lodge got penalised for a high shot on Jared Wallace, and he could be overheard saying, "Sign the contract and let's go."
Yeah.
And lodged him with the red mist, and he puts in some clean but heavy hits on Tino and then Fafita. So it was good to see that. But then the game turns spiteful with 15 to go. Reece Walsh getting a bit overzealous, you have to say, with Philip Sami for his treatment on Rocco Berry. And then our boy Jazz running in to protect the smaller man.
Yeah, mate, it's I love Reece Walsh, and I love the energy he brings to the side, but I just thought at that point in time that was a frustration play because I watched that over and over again, and I really didn't see much from Philip Sami in terms of the treatment on Rocco Berry. There was nothing in that, not to the point where Reece Walsh...
a slight push maybe, like a slight kind of went on with a little bit.
Nothing that Reece Walsh had to come in and, you know, carry on the way he did. And because of the way Reece Walsh carried on, Philip Sami, you know, a bit of push and shove there. And then Jazz being Jazz, he comes in to protect his little man, and he's the guy that gets sent to the sin bin. So, yeah, and then minutes later we had Matt Lodge with a late tackle on Peachy, which I didn't think was late at the time of seeing it. And I'll stand by my decision. Or my opinion, I don't think it was late to the point where it warranted what happened next. And that just sees Jared Wallace launch into Matt Lodge. Now, I'm not condoning what happens, but what's Lodge supposed to do when he has his other front rower coming at him? Of course, he's going to stand up for himself, and I'm glad he did. There was no need for Evans to get involved. And, mate, seriously, Origami Evans, again, with his ineffective punches, he is one guy that should really refrain from throwing punches. Because for what he did, he could have just pushed and he would have saved face. But the fact that he's throwing 2 punches, so that's 4 punches he's throwing to guys that haven't actually noticed have been hit. That's laughable.
It's like what TK just said. Just wondering, if you're going to throw a punch knowing you're going to spend a long time on the sideline, make sure it's worth it. My great-grandmother hit harder.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It was just, it was just soft. So, you know, effectively we end up with 3 guys in the sin bin at one time, yeah?
Yeah, that's it. And 12 versus 10. That got the biggest reaction out of the Warriors faithful, like, for the whole game. And just on that, I'll say that this is probably the poorest Warriors support I think I've seen at a Titans game. There was a very vocal Titans crowd there. I've never seen, because normally I'm only there when Warriors are playing the Titans, and we usually outnumber them. But a lot of Titans fans on deck that day, and on Sunday. And
you could probably put that down to the fact that the Warriors have been there for like 7 or 8 weeks, and the fans up there have had an opportunity to go and watch them play, and they've probably watched them play a couple of half-decent games. But if anyone like yourself who went to the Rabbitohs game, or the week before against the Broncos, then a game where it didn't really mean much. Warriors supporters get sick and tired of spending their hard-earned to go and watch the team underperform. And the fact that we had nothing, like it was a dead rubber and nothing to play for, could have been the reason that there was nothing, the reason could have been the reason why there was not that many people there to support him.
It's understandable. And the situation being it's the last round, like virtually nothing to play for, and and before I forget, sorry, I'll just give a shout out to Richard Moorcock and Junior, and Jay, who said hi to me, who recognised me from the show. So great to meet all you guys there and to catch up with Richard again. He's a good mate.
Yeah.
Sorry, just going on to, as you were talking about the sin binning, so 12 versus 10, and the Titans used obvious advantage to score more points, and they literally they put us to the sword, blowing out our points differential from minus 127 to minus 171, and that dropped us below the Dragons on the ladder. So, no positives to take out of the game. Certainly not the way Petahiku would have envisaged his time at the club to end and would have wanted to finish his Warriors career, unfortunately for him.
He deserved better. He deserved better, mate. He's been an outstanding player for us, played 73 games for the Warriors, and, we've always gushed about, and he's had his issues defensively at times, but we've always gushed about how he's that one player, that one centre that always sets up his outside men.
He knows when to pass. Timing of it's always impeccable.
Absolutely. And, you think back to that win that we had against, I think it was the Tigers, where, we were in front and Reece Walsh wanted to take a quick kick, a quick tap, and he was like, no, we're in front. We're going to wind the clock. Like his maturity and his game management came to the
captain that night.
Yeah. So, it's no surprise to anyone. We've had Pet on the show before, and we have a good rapport with him. He's going to be sadly missed. And what our loss is an absolute massive gain for the Cowboys for next year. But mate, it was probably the most disappointing way to finish off the season. Poor ball security, poor execution, poor game management, poor discipline, poor effort, poor attitude. Evans facing, I think he took 5 weeks. He's got 5 weeks. Lodge getting a week. Reece Walsh gets a week. So they won't be starting the season next year. But that it was the worst way possible to finish the season. Like last year, we had that game against Manly where the team put on a bit of a show. AK's last game, he scored a hat-trick in that game. We beat Manly. I think it was probably the first time that we've ever beat Manly twice in a season. And it was a good way to finish the season, and we all left that season feeling a little bit optimistic and knowing the recruitment that we had coming into season 2021. Now here we are. That's going to be our lasting memory over the off season. 44-0 loss to the Titans. It's it's a tough loss, and this is why I'm so glad that we do our show midweek, because it allows you to take a step back and absorb everything that you've just seen without going off the handle. Because I guarantee if we did the show on Sunday night, our show would be a lot different. But the fact that we've had a couple of days to, gather our thoughts, take down some notes, rewatch the game because we're sadists, and have a look at what there was, we can kind of present a unbiased, accurate account of what happened and a truthful account. It just comes down to a whole lot of poor boxes being ticked for that game.
Yeah, just want to give a shout out to Haka Time Rugby, who's watching on YouTube. Great to have you with us, and Haka Time Rugby, and for your input as well. And he made the point that Petahiku, was great for us last year and led us through some tough periods and put on some tries for the likes of Pompey out in the wing. Who could ever forget that cut-out flick pass that he threw against the Knights that day?
Absolutely,
yeah. Well, mate, we are very fortunate to have partnered with Torius Screen Print for our soon-to-be released merchandise. And in honor of our partnership, we have a Torius Player of the Match. And look, our Torius Player of the Match in a game with very few highlights and very few worthy performances is AFB Adam Fanua-Blake. His stats, 147 run meters, 72 post-contact meters, 2 tackle breaks, and 24 tackles.
Yeah, no other real notable performances in terms of stats and numbers. Petahiku was the only other player with over 100 running meters for that game. He got 118. Montoya got 90 and Sean O'Sullivan 80. And you know you're going bad when your halfback has the 4th most running meters in a game. And that's nothing against O'Sullivan because that's his style of play. He's a running halfback. But when he makes 80 and no other forward can get past the halfback except for a front rower, it's a bit of a worry. But like I said, 39% possession for the whole game and only 55% completion. So we had very little ball. What ball we did have, we couldn't control, and we just turned over cheaply. The Titans had like 2,223 running meters to our pitiful 1,047. The Titans had 37 completed sets to our 16. 16 completed sets. That's 21 more completed sets that they had with the ball. And our poor possession was compounded by poor defence. We made 363 tackles compared to the Titans' 227. That's nearly 140 more tackles made in a game of football, and a massive 33 missed tackles. It's insane. You just can't win a game of footy with stats like that. And let's not forget that we played 9 minutes of that game with only 10 players on the field too. So it's I mean, you can break it down to stats and numbers and all you want, but at the end of the day, it comes down to the attitude as well. And the attitude just was not there, and that was
clearly not there from the start. Yeah,
the worst.
You're never going to win.
No, worst way we could finish the season. Probably the worst thing for the boys now is that they're all still stuck on the Gold Coast for the next month and a half to 2 months at least. So they're going to be in and amongst that whole finals fever up there in Queensland and not taking part of it. Still have to stay in the bubble because they're staying in the areas where the other teams are. So, they're going to have to suck it up and live.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, amongst that.
Remember what this feels like. So make sure next year we're part of it, boys.
Yeah, there's a couple of things coming up on the chat, so we'll touch on them just in Warriors news. Chanel Harris-Tavita coming out and saying that he's going to test himself on the open market after November 1. He's contracted to the club for next year, but he's talking about for 2023. What do you make of that, mate?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Obviously Shaun Johnson coming to the club next year, and he has had his injury concerns, CHT this year, but when he's been fit, Brownie has pretty much put him in there as one of our first choice halves.
Yeah.
Look, he's been up and down. I said at the start of the year this was going to be a big year for him in terms of learning and developing that game management style.
Yeah,
it's just interesting. I feel that next year he would learn a lot playing alongside Shaun Johnson.
Yeah,
be able to hone his craft. He hasn't played a lot of footy. He's played about 40 first grade games,
less than 40, and he's never had a long run of consecutive games in a row. And when he has played games in a row, he hasn't had a run of victories in a row. So. He's 40.
I think he's clearly playing with a leg injury as well because he hasn't kicked a goal all year. And he was our number one goal kicker last year. So he's clearly still hampered by something.
Yeah. But the fact that a guy who's played less than 40 games and played them in patches feels confident to be able to test his value on the open market. I don't see what club would be looking at him as a viable first choice option, to be quite honest, because he hasn't been able to crack it as a first choice option with us. Let's be honest. And don't get me wrong, I love CHT. I think defensively he's great. He still has a lot to learn with his game management. And as you said,
a lot. That's the biggest thing for me is the game management.
Yeah, Shaun Johnson coming, he can do a little bit of bring him up to speed on that. But yes, worrying signs for CHT when Sean O'Sullivan has better season stats than him. And I agree. But a lot of people are down on Sean O'Sullivan. I actually rate Sean O'Sullivan. I think Sean O'Sullivan's another guy that he hasn't really been given many opportunities at the three clubs he's been at, being the Roosters, the Broncos, and now us. He hasn't played a lot of back-to-back games. And especially the past 2 years, there hasn't been any reserve grade competition for these guys to play in. So they don't get that week in, week out stuff. And then even this year, he was in the 21-man squad quite a bit. So he didn't get to go to Redcliffe and play for Redcliffe. I think he only played 3 games.
Lacking a bit of match fitness as well.
Yeah.
Like if he's not playing first grade, then he's on the extended bench most of the time.
He has a really, really good footy brain. And I can remember being at the Canberra game in round 3 this year when he made his debut for the club. And I can remember, like, we were down in that game for a long, long period of time. And when we started getting a bit of a comeback, and there was one point where the Raiders forced a dropout. And I think we were still down by 10 points. And there were some lazy guys lying around on the ground. And he was the guy. He was ready to take the drop kick. He was, like, getting into these guys like, come on, they've got no bench. We've got to keep them going.
We've got to keep the momentum going here. Exactly right. We've got the advantage.
He's got great footy smarts. I think he reads the game really well. He's got a really good kicking game. And I think he's one of those guys that he can really benefit from having a guy like Shaun Johnson there next year. What's up? Oh, printer. Yeah. But in regards to CHT, I just find it an odd one. I don't know whether he's been tapped on the shoulder and they've said, look, there's going to be nothing for you past next year. So you can start looking. Because for me, it just seems odd that a guy with so little footy time is putting it out there that, I'm going to be testing myself on the open market. I guess it's one of those watch this space kind of things. There'll be more developments with that. We touched on the suspensions. Evans 5 weeks. Warranted, do you think?
It wasn't great.
His suspension was for the lifting of the elbows. That's what he got.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't great. It got him square. I mean, are you asking me if I'm disappointed that he's going to be suspended for 5 weeks, or?
I wouldn't expect you to say yes to a question like that.
He was copping it sweet, mate.
I was watching Brad and Richie's show earlier tonight, as I always do, supporting the boys from the standoff, and they were talking about Evans, and I made the comment in that show that look, off field, he's a lovely bloke, Kane Evans. He's a lovely guy. He's a funny guy.
He's a real character.
He's very personable. I've spoken to him on a number of occasions, and he has a great personality. But I questioned his signing at the beginning of the year, and now that we've come to the end of the season, I'm still questioning that signing. And that's nothing against the man personally, but I don't know what he brings to our side. And he doesn't.
We've said it a number of times. It seems to be that the club had a bit of an obsession with having different body shapes in the forward pack, because traditionally we all had the same mould of forward, and we'd struggled obviously with our go forward. So I think Peter O'Sullivan was out there looking for different body shapes for the pack, and Evans is tall, more slender style prop. So I don't know if that was something that they were after for the rotation. But he hasn't. Yeah.
No, he has no real go forward. That's the issue.
No, that's it. There's no go forward there. He hasn't really had the impact that you would expect. So
him spending 5 weeks on the out at the beginning of the season, I think, gives a guy like Aaron Penne a great opportunity to like really secure a spot in that 17. We'll have to wait and see what happens with Kane. before we went live, I just noticed there was a story that's come out where Nathan Brown has backed him. I haven't read the story yet, so I'll do so afterwards. Maybe somebody else has, but yeah, he's an interesting one, and Brownie's kind of standing behind Evans. Lodge and Walsh both cop a week. I think Lodge's was for the high shot earlier in the game on, I think it was Jared Wallace when they, signed the contract. Let's go. I'm not sure what Reece Walsh's is for. Could be from any number of aggro incidents in the game. He's I don't want him to turn into an aggro walker, a guy with little man syndrome that kind of fires up at everyone, knowing that no one can punch him. I don't want him to be that guy. I think Reece needs to really just focus on his footy, learning his craft, learning his trade.
He doesn't want to start racking up these suspensions and then get carryover points, because if he does something in the heat of the moment, like, it could be costly for next season. This is his second suspension this year.
Yeah, Mark Roberts says the thing is, though, he was probably our top prop, going back to Kane Evans, at the time of AFB being out. He managed to run over 100 metres 3 times this season, same as Leeson Armel, and more than Bunty and JTB did. Well, Bunty's a strange one for me, because Bunty didn't get much game time, even the games that he was on the bench. And I know this for a fact because I sat there front row every week behind the Warriors bench and used to watch Bunty getting so fed up the fact that he was sitting on the bench and he'd get 15 and 20 minutes. And he was one that I couldn't understand why he wasn't getting game time, yet guys like Armel and Evans were, because Bunty offers a massive point of difference. He runs hard every run. You never die wondering with Bunty.
More impact.
Yeah. So, I don't know about that. But contrary conduct for Walsh. Okay, understood. So I hope Lodgy can rein in his bit of aggression as well, because as much as people may think it's nepotism that he's there because Peter O'Sullivan's his father-in-law, Matt Lodge is an awesome front rower. He brings so much to us in terms of, we need a little bit of mongrel in our pack, because the only guy that's got it is Jazz. And Lodge is a big unit. He's a massive unit.
Got a good offload. He's one of the top props of the game. Yeah.
Doesn't have the post-contact meters that Fanua Blake has, but Fanua Blake doesn't have the offload game that Lodge has. And when they're on the field together, like a 1-2 punch either side of the ruck, it's we get some really, really good go forward. So we just need Lodgy to be able to not spend as much time out of the side than he does in the side. Bunty needs to increase his fitness levels. That's a rumour floating around. He needs to increase the fitness to play more minutes. Well, yeah, I don't know, mate. I think you get your game fitness by playing. Like you can do as much fitness and running as humanly possible, but if you're not getting out on the field, you just don't get the game fitness. And match fitness is completely different to fitness. Trust me, I know. I played footy for 30-something years. There's a massive difference between being fit, cardio fit, and being match fit. And I reckon, I reckon Bunty's match fitness. I think he's got the match fitness. I think he's got more than. I think because I reckon he's for the minutes that he played, he had more impact than the guys that we're talking about that got more minutes than him. So yeah. And probably the last bit of news to discuss, mate, is there was an article came out from Tony Kemp.
Oh, yes, Tony Kemp, our former coach from 2004 to 2005. Not our most successful coach, we might add. Coming out and basically slamming the Warriors as usual. What's new? It seems to either be Tony Kemp or Graham Lowe or one of these guys that seems to come out and sink the boot in, especially when we're not going well. He had a bit of a dig at our nepotistic signings, obviously, and Shaun O'Sullivan and Lodge, as we touched on.
He's an absolute tool. He is.
He's the guy that they go to when they want a negative story. Like it just comes across to me as a bitter ex-coach. Like he wasn't retained at the end of 2005, and he's probably still got a bit of a chip on his shoulder about that. I would imagine. And then he came out and was saying, look at the guys that we've let go who are playing in the Titans team. So we're talking about like, Sambo Skipper, Paddy Herbert, Ez Clark, and saying that, these guys are all doing well for another club. But yeah, let's not forget that those guys also played for us when we weren't doing well either.
Yeah.
Like it's not like we were making the top 8 every year with those guys in the team. I'm not having a dig at these guys at all. They're all great players. And, we love all our ex-players all throughout the NRL. But, I just can't take Tony Kemp too seriously, I must say.
I was particularly amused with some of his comments. So earlier in the season, when Shaun Johnson was, off contract.
That's right. He had a dig at Johnson, didn't he? He said, yeah.
He came out and said that Shaun Johnson is the player that the Warriors should sign. And if they can get him for $400,000, that'd be a great signing. They were his words. And in this article the other day, he actually criticised the club for buying Shaun Johnson at $450 because he's going to spend most of the game on the sideline. So he's automatically become a hypocrite right from the start. But then he commented that Wade Egan
Wade Egan can't tackle. Yeah.
So Wade Egan he's finished in the top 10 tacklers in the NRL this season. He's got a 91% tackle efficiency. He's been our top tackler all season. So obviously he doesn't watch many games, and that's what I think it comes down. I don't think he watches many Warriors games. He's probably watched 5% of the football the Warriors have played this year. And then, criticised us for letting Adam Kieran go. Now, we were two guys who would have loved to have kept Adam Kieran last year.
And Paddy Herbert.
Paddy Herbert, and we openly said that. But let's be brutally honest. If the Roosters don't get any injuries this year, Adam Kieran doesn't play first grade at the Roosters. 100%. He's only playing there because of their massive injury toll. Paddy Herbert's, he's found a home on the Gold Coast, but Paddy Herbert was under a bit of pressure from some of the guys we've got coming through.
We had sort of abundance of stocks in the outside backs at the time. Pompey had just had a massive season. Yep. And you had Aitken coming to the club, and you had Hicko still there, and there was a lot of competition.
Oh, that was his thing. Aitken we bought as a centre, but we've moved him to the back row, so we can play about that. And then there was the nepotism side of things about the Lodge and the Sean O'Sullivan signings. Now, Lodge, I've said it just before. Lodge is a great signing because he brings so much to the club, and Sean O'Sullivan, I think, has earned another 12-month contract with the club. I thought Sean O'Sullivan, in the opportunities he's been given this year in a team not moving forward, it's very easy to criticise a halfback when the forward pack is not getting meters. And you look at the wins that we had when we had those 3 wins in a row, and we had good go forward from our forwards. It was Sean O'Sullivan that was playing halfback in those games. People have to remember,
it's just everyone has selective, or particularly Tony Kemp, I would say, selective memories, and just chooses to pick out, a couple of really poor performances and highlight those. As TK said, it's like you think we got the wooden spoon every year, the way that they carry on. Well, he was carrying on
that's right.
That article.
It's an interesting story, but I give as much kudos to those kind of guys as I do to a guy like Buzz Rothfield. They're
kicking us while we're down, and it's like they would know that. We want a controversial story about the Warriors. Who should we ask? What about one of their ex-coaches?
Absolutely.
That's what I brought up. They get Bluey McLennan in there as well, and Graham Lowe, Hugh McGann. These guys are always quite negative about the club.
Mark Roberts said that Lowy and Bluey, along with Kempy, have been quite vocal in the media this week about the Warriors. So, it's an interesting one, isn't it? But, that's the thing about opinions, mate. They're like arseholes. Everyone's got one. So, well, most people. There's a few people we know that can't formulate an opinion, and they use other people's opinions at times. But
got to have an opinion. Got to stick with it. That's
absolutely.
Tony Kemp has his. We have ours. Anyway,
right,
there's a bit coming through about Adam Kieran. So let's look at the round that was, and let's go back to Thursday night at BB Prince Stadium. The Roosters 40 over the Raiders 16.
Yep.
And speaking of Kieran the man, he got another hat trick. 3 tries: Ikavalu, Crichton, Marshke, Lamb, and Kieran 4 from 7. Or was it 4 from 7? Make your own mind up about that. What is it with that ground and kicks a goal? Something. It's like a Bermuda Triangle somewhere there in Mackay.
Yep.
Anyway, Takiyahu ended up 2 from 2. Raiders tries the Whitehead, Papali'i, Smith Shields, and Rapana 2 from 3. I was looking forward to this game because this was going to have a bit of a say in how the top 8 was made up. And the Raiders, they got off to a great start with the Elliott Whitehead try. But once the Roosters got their way back into the game, they were just too strong. It was a poor end to what was pretty. You got to face it, was a pretty poor season from the Raiders. Most people had them in probably their top 4 start of the year. Expected them to be pushing for a premiership.
Yep.
And speaking of AK, I was dreading going on social media because of all the AK. Why did we let him go? It's just all over there. Although you got to wonder why we let go of Adam Kieran. Everyone's having a go, but like it's something about him in the final round of the season, isn't it? Hat trick last year for us, a hat trick here. Yep. And no doubt he's a great player. And as you said before, we were both pretty vocal about hoping that he would secure another deal with us. Wasn't to be, and he has played a fair bit of first grade for the Roosters. He's filled quite a few gaps there as well, and he is a versatile player. Yeah, what do you think about the game?
Mate, I thought Canberra looked really good early, but then once the Roosters gained the momentum, the Raiders just capitulated, and they were just awful. Their first try awarded as a possible 8-point try, I thought was a harsh call on Chance Nickel-Kluxter. I thought the torso was more with his torso than the knees, and they penalised him on the night. But, I thought the Raiders had some really poor handling errors, passes not finding the mark, which really had all their momentum going the Roosters' way. Semi Valame had a Manu Vatavai versus the Parramatta Eels type night.
Didn't he? He had a nightmare.
Of drop balls and missed tackles, and there was even a couple that were just laughable where the Roosters drop the ball or put a kick in, and he picks it up and he runs and he gets tackled, and then as he's falling, the ball comes flying. It was almost like absolutely, mate. As you said, AK with a hat trick. He did the same thing in the final round for us last season, as you said. But yeah, the Raiders, very disappointing, as you said. Just no energy or no urgency for a team that, been in the finals mix for the past 2 seasons. I think top 4 last year, grand finalists the year before. They were a team that everyone had in their top 4 this year. Probably the biggest disappointment for everyone this year. And I'm not trying to stick the boot in, Millie.
Sorry, Millie.
But I was just really disappointed with the way, because of the teams that were fighting for the 8 in Cronulla, Canberra, and the Titans. Canberra were the team that I really wanted to get in there out of those 3 teams to finish off the 8. But yeah, mate, the Roosters, despite their injuries, they just keep on producing.
It's amazing, isn't it? With their injury toll to be where they are.
For them to finish 5th, it's just a remarkable achievement. And 5th on 4 and against only. They're same points as Manly. Just a recognition of Jordan Rapana. He was named the Mal Meninga medalist this year for the Canberra Raiders, and well-deserved. And to think we nearly lost him to rugby. Went over to Japan to play Japanese rugby, and the COVID outbreak hit, and he kind of made his way back to the Raiders. And then, he's been their best player this year. And we spoke about him last week. He's one of those guys that, he gives 100% every play. A guy that everyone kind of wants to play with. Disappointing season, but congratulations to the Chookies.
Yeah, exactly right. Well done. The first game on Friday, another fascinating game in terms of the makeup for the top 8. at the Sheba Super Stadium. The Storm 28 over the Sharks 16. Storm tries 3 tries to Pappenhausen. Smith and Seve also tries. Hines 4 from 6. The Sharkies, Kartoa with a double. Tracy Trindle 2 from 4. This was probably after the Rays game. This was the most pivotal game of the weekend, and crucial for the aspirations of both the Sharks and the Titans. And all through the game, we're getting a live ladder and we're getting live for and against, and the calculations were coming out. It was interesting. But yeah, mate, the Storm once again proved that they can get the job done despite who turns up in the jersey. They all know their role in that system, and the juggernaut rolls on.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Ryan timely returned to form for him as well right before the finals. He was looking a little bit gun shy up until then, a little bit tentative, but
absolutely
he asserted himself into that game with, as I said, with a hat trick. And Sharks, they turned up and they tried hard, but I think they're just missing a few guys there as well, and it was probably a little bit of a bridge too far for them.
Yeah, mate. Like I said, even with all the players that they rested, the Storm still ran out a first-grade quality team. You know your depth is good when you can run out a team, like when you can rest the players that you rest and still run out a team, that worthy of winning a NRL game the way they did. I thought it was an entertaining contest. I really thought the Sharks gave themselves every chance with a really good first half, and it's kind of almost as if that aura that surrounded Melbourne is really starting to dissipate, and teams have worked out how to play against them because we've seen, the last couple of weeks, especially the Storm have been gettable. Parramatta got them. Admittedly, they rested players, but even before that, they nearly got beat by, I think it was the Cowboys.
Yep.
And then the game against Manly, they only won that by 10 points, and they had 40% possession in that game. So, as you said, Pappenhausen back to his running best. He finally got his confidence back, scored 3 tries, 204 running meters, 11 tackle breaks. Harry Grant and Brandon Smith, they're just that 1-2 punch around the ruck. And Jerome Hughes, all class at halfback. Congratulations to Melbourne on winning their 4th minor premiership in 6 years. Consistency, that's what it comes down to. They're just so consistent. Yeah,
exactly right. The second game at the same ground, Seabus Super Stadium, Panthers 40 over the Eels 6. Panthers hat trick to Brian To'o, Pangai, Burton, Coruscant, and Cleary tries. Cleary 6 from 7. And for the Eels, Tom Opachik with a try, and Ferguson kicking 1 from 1. As predicted, the Panthers just towelled up a massively understrength Eels team, probably surprise to nobody. What about, speaking of Fergo, though, he was captain. He's just a different sort of a bloke, isn't he? Old Fergalicious. What about him blowing the captain's challenge from the kickoff? The touchy's right there. Right, he's like up the other end of the field. Oh yeah, I'll challenge that.
Yeah, good on you, Fergo. Mate, I think it's got to be an NRL record in that game. The first time 2 players with the name Hayes would have been starting not only in the same game but playing for the same team. Hayes Perrin and Hayes Dunster, and as you said, Parra had the identical twins, Blake Ferguson and Michael Oldfield, playing next to each other on that right edge.
Separated at birth.
Penrith just fine-tuning a semi-final performance. And Parramatta with a makeshift team, there's always going to be a blowout score. When Penrith stepped up the intensity, Parra just weren't able to go with them. Brian To'o, outstanding with 3 tries, 10 tackle breaks, 2 line breaks and 243 meters. And mate, the cyborg, he's just programmed, isn't he? He's tweaked a little bit with a screwdriver beforehand, and mate, he's just awesome. But yeah, the kick out, Pangai, Martin, Yeo, Capewell, Leota, Fisher Harris, mate, that's just awesome. That is just an awesome forward pack.
That's an unreal pack, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
To have all those guys fit and firing leading into a semi-final series. Jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, mate, on Saturday, we went up to Suncorp Stadium, and the Broncos 35 over the Knights 22. I'm quite pleased because I picked this one. Broncos tries to Hetherington, Oates, Farnworth, Milford, Cobbo, and Tessie New. Farnworth 5 from 6, and Milgoal. The Knights tries to Tuala, Toa, Johns, Randall, Clifford 3 from 4. I'd expected the Broncos to show up for this one as final game of the season, and they've been playing well lately. Let's face it, their last month of footy's been quite good. And final game of the season, and farewelling, as we said earlier, farewelling a favourite son and a man with 2 first names, Alex Glenn.
Can't trust
the man with 2 first names.
No.
Yeah, as I said, very popular figure up this in Brisbane. Captain and long-serving player. And you got the feeling that the pressure valve might just have been released for the Knights with their spot in the 8 sort of well and truly sewn up. They probably didn't go into it with the same intensity that they might have for a different game. It kind of reminded me of us in 2001 after we got that finals spot, in the bag, and then we played the final game of the season and didn't really show up against the Cowboys that year and cost ourselves like 6th spot. But I don't think the Knights could have gone any higher than 7th.
No, they couldn't have.
Yeah.
But
and the Broncos,
you don't go running into the semis with a loss, though, do you?
No, 100%. You definitely rather win. Broncos will take some momentum into 2022 with this one, and with some heavy reinforcements on the way. They've got some big signings due to show up at Red Hill. So things are looking up for the Broncos.
Yeah, mate. It's a completely different Broncos outfit than the team that ran out the first couple of rounds this season. They were diabolical early, and it's no surprise that a bit of stiffness has come into that club since Ben Ikens arrived in the CEO role or whatever it is that he's doing there.
Head of football or something.
Yeah, he's always been a good analyst, and he said he was going to make some hard changes, and he's done that. And there's guys there that are starting to play some really good footy. The Knights did have a couple of outs. They rested Brayley, Barnett, Tyson Frizzell, and both the Saifidi boys. So they did lose a little bit of go forward and direction around the ruck. But I thought the Broncos played a really good style up-tempo footy. They used the edge-back roles really, really well. And I thought Herbie Farnworth was outstanding for them in the centres. He's developed into a real top-quality centre. He reminds me of the next Peta Hiku. He is very good at setting up the guys outside him. But I thought at 24-4 down, it was interesting that Adam O'Brien chose to bring Pearce and Ponga off after 40 minutes. Well, mate, for me, if you're going to rest them after 40 minutes, you might as well just not play them at all. Don't risk them for that 40. I mean, you'd already rested 6 players. Well, another 2 is not going to change it. But yeah, as you said, Alex Glenn, great way for him to go out. I must say, I was impressed with Jack Johns in his first starting game for the Knights. He's got a really good work rate. Was found out a little bit in defence, and that just comes with not playing too much footy. Again, there's no second-tier competitions for these guys to play in. But once you kind of identify where you're positioning in the defensive line, you get that trust of the guy inside you and the guy outside you. You kind of adjust and you make a little bit better choices in defence. And I think that's where the Broncos really found out the Knights was that they were playing with like Brodie Jones, who's a bench back rower that plays middle forward or in the centres, and Jack Johns on the other side, and they kind of isolated them a little bit in defence. But yeah, great win by the Broncos. I think you're right. I think they've bought really well. Adam Reynolds is going to be worth an extra 10 points to them every week next year.
Give them plenty of direction and
absolutely.
He'll be a great buy for them. Yeah.
And Milf found it at the end of the year too, which was good.
Yeah, he rediscovered his mojo just in time to do a bit of a swap with. He'll be going down to South Sydney. Reynolds up to Brisbane.
We're doing, in just response to Victor Kiwi, we're doing shows right through the finals, after the finals, all through October. We've got some live guests lined up and into November as well. So every Wednesday, bro, come back and see us.
Same time, same place. And cheers, TK. TK's got to head off, but yeah, salute to you.
Yep. See you, bro.
All right, we move on to Queensland Country Bank Stadium with the Sea Eagles 46 over the Cowboys 18. Sea Eagles tries to Tommy Turbo with a double, Jake with a double, Saab, Garrick, Cherry Evans. Garrick 6 from 7, also bringing up 300 points for the season. Massive. And the Cowboys, the Little Hammer, McLean and Condon tries, Holmes 3 from 3. This was a classic example of a full-time score that really didn't indicate the closeness of the contest.
No.
6 points, the difference with about 15 minutes to go. That's the final. It's another Turbo masterclass. Firstly, scoring what I thought at the time was the try of the season, only to later on score the try that eclipsed that try as the season. That was unreal.
Absolutely.
The last play of the game there, Garrick was massive, not picking that ball up in the in-goal area, running it out, beating half the team, and it was scintillating footy. And look, Manly are an absolute dark horse for this premiership. Traditionally, I've never been particularly fond of Manly, but this Manly team is great to watch. Breathtaking to watch, actually. Tommy Turbo is in rare form, almost, maybe even better than Hayne 2009. Yeah. We may talk about this in some coming shows as well about Rich Vayner forming players, but it's unreal. Toddy's got his work cut out up there as well. No massive reinforcements heading up there outside of Chatty Townsend and our mate Pat as well. So, unfortunately, as I said, he's got his work cut out for him. But it's all about Manly and all about Turbo. And
you're right. What you say, mate. As a young kid growing up in the North Sydney district and being a Bears supporter and Manly being our closest neighbour, in my area, you either went for Manly or you hated them. And I grew up hating Manly, and Manly's been the team I've always hated. Even once the Warriors came in and I became a Warriors supporter, I still had that soft spot for the Bears. And then when the whole Northern Eagles thing happened, and then they pissed off the second part of the North Sydney part and just went back to Manly, my hate for them just grew again. But you're right, this Manly team, very hard to hate. The Turbo and Jake, Schuster, Olika Artu, Garrick Feldman. On one week, Feldman. It makes it very hard to hate this side. I find myself not supporting them. That's a big stretch, but I enjoy watching them play, as you said. But I thought, as you said, it was a close game for most of the contest. I thought for the second game in succession on the Saturday, the team that had nothing to play for came out and played the better footy. Manly just really not in their groove. They dropped a lot of ball. Jason Saab proved he's the fastest man in rugby league when he chased down the Little Hammer.
Are you sure? Have you checked that with Gus?
Mate, he also proved he's a rubbish defender with his attempted tackle. But he can.
Wasn't that? Oh.
Yeah. But then he ran down...
bit of a massage.
He ran down Tuolagi later on in the game and made up 10 metres in the space of 2 metres. He's got some speed, that kid.
Legs that long. He just makes up the ground.
Taumalolo, very disappointing season for the Cowboys. I know he had injuries at certain stages, but mate, he's not that that tackle breaking colossus that he was anymore. He struggled all season with injury. It'll be interesting to see how he bounces back next year. It's interesting to see if people have worked him out. Tommy Turbo's second try, he beats 9 defenders, just absolute freak. And then you get that ridiculous try at the end by Reuben Garrick. There's a video going around on social media. I don't know if anyone's seen it. There was a guy who had a bet on, and when the full-time hooter went, when they put that kick in, Manly only had to run it dead, and this guy was going to win $6,000 because he had the under-over points. And then there's a video of him watching the game, like someone's videoed him because he's going to win $6,000.
No.
Absolute disappointment. So Interesting stuff. Ruben Garrick, first person in the history of the game to score over 300 points in the regular season. The best before that was Hazem El Masri of 288. Ruben got 302. Manly, the first team to have 3 guys in the over 20 tries in the season, and 3 in the top 5. And then you've got Tommy Turbo. He scored 25 tries and had 29 try assists in just 15 games of footy. You got to remember, Manly were dead last after round 4. They were dead last.
We played them back into form. They can thank us. If they go on to win the premiership, they can thank the generous Warriors for playing them back into form in round 5.
I know.
Excuse me.
You know, Christian Catley says Turbo or Nathan Cleary for Dally M. I think Cleary missed too much footy in that important part
Shoulder
of the season.
injury, yeah.
Every game Manly's won, Turbo would have got at least 2 points.
Easy.
3. And I really think it's out of him and Cody Walker. I think Cody Walker's the dark horse, but I think the fact that Walker didn't play the last round, I think that kind of hands it to Tommy Turbo. But then what do I know? I didn't have Jack Whiten winning the thing last year. So yeah. But I think it'll be
shall
Turbo.
see.
Yeah, we shall see. Yeah.
Moving on to the last game on Super Saturday at the Sunshine Coast Stadium, the Rabbitohs 20 over the Dragons 16. Rabbitohs a double to Dexter Graham, Ilias Milne and Taff 2 from 5, and Dragons Sloan 2 and Ravalawa tries, Norman 2 from 3. Not really much at stake, and the understrength bunnies just at the first half looked to be all over the Dragons, who were probably like us and just wanted their season to end. Quite frankly. However, unlike us in that second half, they did show a bit of fight and got back into that game and made a game that got 3 tries in that second half. Bunnies will push for a prelim spot, I think. I can't see them going much further than that, though, without Latrell. And the Dragons are in all sorts. Diabolical player recruitment, retention, and Griffin would probably have to be $1.01 as the first coach sacked in 2022.
Oh, I don't know. Woogie could get that one.
On the assumption that he doesn't even get to 2022.
Yeah. Yeah, mate. So many youngsters on display in this game. The Rabbitohs rested a lot. And we got to see, there was no Reynolds, no Walker, no Cook. But we got to see guys like Blake Taff, Peter Mamazoulis, Lachlan Ilias.
Didn't he have a game at Mamazoulis? Yeah, he looks a player.
He does, doesn't he? He's like he reminds me of Cameron Smith in terms of he doesn't look like a footy player. He looks like a lost kid that's wearing a South jersey that's wandered on the field and somehow started playing the game of footy. Like
Cody Ramsey?
Yeah. No, Cody Ramsey won a competition.
Okay.
And then you had young Amone for the Dragons and Figai on one wing and Sloan at the back. So there's a lot of young stars getting a bit of game time. I thought Benji was outstanding, leading that young team around. Played a really good brand of footy, and it's hard to think that he may not be playing footy again next year. I mean, I know he's 36, but he's still playing some good footy. I'd like to see him run around again. But yeah, the Dragons were disappointing for 70 minutes, to be quite honest. They really only played footy in that last 10 minutes where they scored a couple of tries. Matt Checken was honoured at the end of the game by both teams. But yeah, I agree with you. I can't see South going too far in this final series. I think they'll lose in week 1, which will then have them play. And I don't know which side of the draw they're on. I don't know if they play like the winner of the Roosters Titans or the winner of the Eels Knights. And I'm thinking if they have to come up against, say, the Roosters, I don't see them going past the Roosters, but I see them going past Parramatta. Mm-hmm. So, it all depends on what side of the draw they end up. But I can't – I mean, they no way they're going to get past Penrith this weekend. No way.
Great comment here from Stevie Williams when we're talking about players that don't look like footy players. He said like John Stockton from the Utah Jazz. Exactly. I always thought that about John Stockton. Also, Chris Mullen. Remember that guy with the flat top, played for the Golden State Warriors, and he was in the Dream Team as well. Yeah, no, exactly. Good analogy there, Steve. So Sunday, moving on to Moreton Daly Stadium. this was after the debacle that we had, and yeah, Carl, if you're listening, watching, block your ears. Bulldogs 38 over Tigers 0. Meany a double, Avarillo, Jack Hetherington getting his first try, Jaden Ockenbaugh, Corey Allen, Meany 4 from 7, Hopewadi 1 from 1, and we thought we were bad. Well, we were bad, but so were the Tigers. And an awful end to an awful season. And, you got to say, though, some hope for the Doggies for next year with some big name recruits climbing on board. So, like the Broncos, I expect them to be big improvers next year as well. And it's a good way to finish. It was a pretty terrible season for them as well. Clear example, I would say, of the Dogs. They just wanted that game more. They just clearly wanted to win that game more than the Tigers did. You saw tries in the first half. They were just running harder, and yeah, they just wanted it more. Mate, and if Woggy didn't have stress blisters before, he's got plenty now.
Oh, mate, Malcolm Earnshaw said, "So Dave League at the Hammer House." Oh, mate, you are not wrong. It was shocking. I mean, the look of sympathy that Carl gave me at the end of the Warriors game, and then to sit through that Tigers game, and to actually sit there and think, well, we weren't that bad, because let's put it in perspective. The Tigers lost 38-0 to the team coming dead last that had only won 2 games all year. It was the biggest win by a team coming last in the final round of the competition in the history of the game since 1908. The previous best was the Knights 38 over to 6 over the Bears in 1988 for a 32-point winning margin. So this was the biggest winning margin. Mate, yeah, what can you say? The Bulldogs did do the little 1%ers, and it was in a game that really meant nothing. And, they wanted to send Will Hopewadi out as a winner. He's off to the Super League. Been a great ambassador for the game as well. Unfortunately, he's got a dickhead of a father who came out in the press yesterday. Will Hopewadi did a thank you to the Bulldogs, and John commented, "Yeah, well, now that you're not there, I can go and bash Trent Barrett in the head." So he's a guy. He's an absolute. Seriously. But yeah, mate, there's not much you could say about this. Congratulations to the Bulldogs on winning the wooden spoon. That's one thing. Tigers are a team under immense pressure. There's calls for Woogie to be sacked. I don't know. I don't know about that. In watching that Tales from Tiger Town, Woogie's got more passion for that club than the players do. So, mate, I'll put it through the place.
Pretty evident, yeah.
Some of those guys just have to go. Mate, the Ghost put in a Ghost-like performance again, didn't he? Did nothing.
He's the one that has to go. He needs to go. He needs a change of scenery big time. He's been at the club for 8 years and hasn't really come close to finals. It's time.
Interesting, like with all the talk about moving Woogie on, because they've got Tim Sheens coming back there. Benji's throwing his weight behind Tim Sheens. What's the James Tarmo and Luciano Leilua came out in support of Woogie, but their support was, why get rid of the coach? Then we have to start all over again. So it's not like, he's the guy to take us forward. It's like, we've got to start all over.
Don't make us do extra work. We don't want to do any extra work.
No, Justin Pascoe, not enough accountability put on him. And, man, did anyone see the last episode of Tales from Tiger Town? Did that guy... He seriously
like friends get haircuts like that.
He seriously looked like Joe Exotic.
There's something going on. It was the elephant in the room, wasn't it? In that show, it's like, what is on his head?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, but you know what? It's always great to have another team that's more of a basket case than us.
Takes a bit of pressure off us.
It's unfortunate that it still happens in my household, though. So.
Oh no, you wouldn't read about it, eh? You blokes must have just been sitting there. It's like,
mate, that's why we get on so well. We know exactly. I mean,
you understand each other's pain. Yeah.
At least he's won a premiership, though.
They're always going to have that. They will got that over us for the time being for at least one more year, anyway.
Speaking of premierships, mate, let's get into our set of six.
Yeah, what time is it? You know what time it is. It's time for our set of six.
Yeah, first one's not really a rant. It's more an observation. Talking about premierships, we're talking about the longest premiership droughts. And you know, obviously which teams have gone long periods of time without winning anything. So I know we haven't won one, but we are not the worst on the list in terms of teams. There are two teams that have gone longer without winning a premiership than us. And the first one's Parramatta. They haven't won a premiership since 1986, back in the days when, Cronin and Sterlo and all them players. And the Raiders haven't won a premiership since 1994. Ruben Wickie's first year at the club, Mal Meninga's last year. And then you've got the Knights 2001, Penrith 2003, Bulldogs 2004, Tigers 2005, Broncos 2006, the Dragons 2010, the Sea Eagles 2011. We all remember that one. The Rabbits 2014, the Cowboys 2015, Sharks got their first after 50 years in 2016. And then you got the Roosters, obviously 2019, the Storm 2020.
Manly what a drought for the Storm. Jeez, lift your game.
I know. Well, listen to this, mate. Manly are the only team who has won a premiership in each of the past 5 decades. So they've got the most success in past 5 decades. Melbourne have featured in 10 of the past 22 grand finals. So I went back 22 because that kind of brings in as many clubs as I could find. So in the past 22, you've had the Storm in 10, the Roosters in 8, Manly the next best with 4. The Broncos Broncos, Bulldogs, and Dragons have played in 3 grand finals. The Panthers, Warriors, Eels, and Cowboys have each played in 2. The Sharks, Raiders, Knights, Rabbits, and Tigers each played in 1, and the Sharks, Knights, Rabbits, and Tigers have all won those premierships, the one that they've been in. And then the Titans are the only team to not feature in a grand final in the past 22 years. And Mike Harrison says, don't forget about North's drought. North's, a lot of people don't realise this, North's never actually won a grand final. We won in 21 and 22, but it was first past the post. It wasn't a grand final. So the
it's just top of the table.
Yeah. So the Bears never actually won a premiership. 21, they were undefeated. 22, they won. I think their last grand final appearance should have been 91 when Darryl Halligan missed 4 goals. He kicked 1 from 5 and the Bears lost to the Panthers by 2 points. Would have gone in the grand final. Who knows what would have happened?
97, you were close as well.
Yeah, I'm not bitter or anything, but that was our real true point. But before that, I think it was 45 where we lost to Western Suburbs or Newtown, I think. So, anyway, long time. But, the Titans, the only team not to feature in a grand final in the past 22 years. What do you make of those droughts, mate?
Yeah, the Parramatta one gets brought up every time. I never get into these discussions because if everyone quite rightly turns around, you got to win one to have a drought. Yeah. So I don't know stay out of these discussions. It was interesting that Manly stat, and they've been very consistent. With their premierships and was it Tigers have been in 1 and 1.
Yeah, 2005. They went close. They should have been there in 2010, but they lost that preliminary final.
The Dragons.
For the Dragons.
Selwood field goal, remember that?
Yeah, and the Dragons went on to win that. And you could probably say that the Eels probably should have. Well, they probably should have been given one because the Storm cheated, and
2009.
The other one, in 2001, they were red hot favourites, weren't they?
Yeah, I'll never forget that one. They were the red hot all year. I think they just had that thing where they just coasted into the grand final and then just came up against red hot Joey Johns, who put them to the sword in that first half. They were down 24-0, and that was game over.
Yeah.
This actually segues me perfectly onto the second set of 6, which is the 2 teams that have not won a grand final, obviously Warriors and the Titans. And it got me thinking, who is actually closer out of us and the Titans to actually bringing up their maiden premiership? So the only 2 teams never to win a premiership. This was a tough one. This was a really tough one. Extremely tough question. Both, if you're talking about right now, we were very similar at the start of the year. Both had recruited well in the forwards, and we both had very similar seasons. Take the final round out of it, and we were both very similar seasons. Both strong forward packs, mixed back lines, some genuine superstars in there, also thrown amongst some honest toilers there. To me, it really is like a dead heat. Very little separates us and the Titans. Forgetting the final round, because I don't want that to influence the decision, because that was a dead rubber result. The Titans had to win to get into the finals, and we were diabolical. At full strength, very little separates these two teams. You put them at full strength. On their day, both are equally capable of winning by plenty or losing by plenty. It's a really tough one, but I had a bit of a discussion with you before we went on there. Based on the fact that the Titans have made the finals and that they are playing out of their home base, they have very little distance. They're playing out of the Gold Coast. They can stay on the Gold Coast. I would say they are marginally ahead.
I would agree.
But there is not much in it. We are very similar. Very similar.
I would agree they're closer only because they're still playing and we're not. That's the only thing for me that separates the argument, is the fact that they could do a Stephen Bradbury and every other team could fall over, and they could win a premiership here because they're still there. We can't. That's the only thing separating us in the argument. If they hadn't have made the 8, I think I would say we would be marginally ahead. Only because
marginally,
only because of. I mean, you can go through the side too. Like Reece Walsh up against Jaden Campbell, pretty similar. Young guns, that kind of thing. Brian Kelly in the centres up against a guy like Rocco Berry, pretty similar. Hiku and Herbert. I know Hiku's not there next year, but they're pretty much a like for like kind of guy. Tino, Adam Fanua-Blake, that kind of, like, you can kind of pass them off against each other, and you'd be pretty much straight down the middle.
That's what I was doing. I was like looking at both teams. I put my full strength lineups, and I was just like, oh, geez, there's really nothing in this. Really nothing in it at all.
No.
Yeah.
But,
interesting.
It is an interesting one, but hopefully next year we can get the answer to that with a definitive premiership and say that, yes, the Titans are the only team that haven't won a comp. That'd be good.
Hey, good to see us playing the Titans in the grand final next year.
No, because that could happen where they beat us and we're still the team that haven't won a premiership.
Oh, wouldn't that suck? That's why it was amazing, though, wasn't it? In 2015 and 2016, 2 years in a row, teams that had never won a premiership. So you had the Cowboys in 2015 and the Sharks in 2016. I always used to say, it's all right. The Sharks have been in since 67. They still haven't won a premiership, so there's no pressure on us. All of a sudden, and also the Cowboys, our contemporaries, that they probably won't win one. They win one.
Yep.
Sharks win one.
Yep.
I'm like, geez, that just leaves us in the Titans.
Yeah. Let's not forget that the Hunter Mariners have never won one. And the Adelaide Rams.
Neither of the Adelaide Rams and the Perth Reds and the Crushers. There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, phew. Okay, I forgot about those guys.
Absolutely. Mate, I want to talk about the final round of the competition where we had so many teams resting players. Mate, I can understand why clubs do it. They're in there for playing the long game. You want to free up, rest a couple of your hard-working players and give them a break. But does it tarnish that final round of the competition? We saw last year that the Sharks snuck in to the top 8 with a win over Melbourne in the last round when Melbourne rested all their players. And we had a bit of a discussion about it last week. Should we have a bye round where they can, like before the semis, where they can do that and introduce like a wild card weekend where 7th plays 10th and 8th play 9th for those 2 spots in the semis? Because, as we said, sometimes you get a team that limps into the semis, but the team that's coming 10th or something like that is playing much better footy, goes on a bit of a run at the end of the year, much better footy. and sometimes, those teams that limp into the finals really don't deserve to be there. Thankfully, this year it didn't happen where a result was based on a team like Melbourne resting all their players and Cronulla winning that game and then getting the spot in the 8. When let's be honest, the Titans deserve that spot by the performance that they put on us. They went out there, they needed to win. They only needed to win by 12. The fact that they blew us off the park and we were diabolical, they deserve that spot in the 8. Selfishly for me, though, I play fantasy football. So, you go in these comps and I'm in a paid comp as well. So I pay money to go in a comp. And then it gets to the end of the year where it did this year. And I ended up, out of my 25-man roster, I could only field 11 players this weekend. Because decimated through suspensions and injuries and guys being rested. So, it was kind of a missed opportunity. Lucky I had Turbo and I still managed to crack over 1,000 points. But, I mean, I don't like it. I don't think it's a good look for the game. And I don't think it's something that the NRL will ever come down on because, as I said, that if I'm a coach of a rugby league team and I want to rest my players, I don't want the NRL telling me that I can't do that. In the efforts of player welfare and so forth. And like I said, I understand it. Selfishly, I just don't like it. But what's your thoughts on that? What do you think about resting players in that, especially that final round? It kind of takes a bit of the gloss off the games.
Yeah, it does. And when I was looking at our run home, when we were still in contention for the final spot, I did, and quite a few people noted this, that the Storm are likely to rest their players against the Sharks. And it's like, is that effectively going to decide a spot in the 8 as well? Obviously, our run into the finals got cut short because of our own performances. But you're thinking if we're relying on that result, now it'd be really disappointing that a heavily depleted Storm team basically gifts the Sharks a final spot.
Yeah.
If it comes down to you depending on that. And, they did the same thing last year and they got beaten by the Dragons, I think, in the final round as well.
Yeah.
There wasn't really the top 8 was decided a lot earlier on last year. But, again, I can understand why they do it, but if you're going along to the game and it's the only time you get to see your team and you just watch like a second string side run out, it's not great from that perspective.
Where were these games on, like Brown Park at Rockhampton or something? And
like an exhibition game kind of thing, and people want to go out and see the best players. Yep,
that's right. They send the game to a regional Queensland area, and a place that doesn't get NRL games very often, and then you have South turn up, with eight first grade players not playing. And you think
so unrecognisable lineup, and you're like, you got kids that want to go and see their superstars, and then the standard
of footy, is a little bit less, but yet they're still charging people the same amount for the ticket to go and watch that game of footy. That's where it kind of gets to me. Is okay if they're gonna rest players, you got to reduce price on your ticket because
that's it. You're not
paying
the full product.
That's right. You're not getting the full product. So yeah.
Yeah, mate. I want to talk about coaches and how long do you give a coach? How long do you give a coach? Plenty of coaches under pressure after their first season in charge, including Brownie, Toddy, Griffin, Trent Barrett, and then even throw guys like Woogie, Ricky Stewart into the mix. These guys are more experienced coaches, have had a lot longer at their clubs and had poor seasons. It does seem crazy to sack a coach after one season without really giving them an opportunity to put their stamp on the team and not allowing them time to build their roster. And yeah, exactly. I should have put him in. Without giving the opportunity to really build their roster and weed out the players and the staff or whoever around them that they want or don't want there. If the team shows no improvement after the second season, then you can probably start looking at making changes.
Yep.
There's many things to take into account, including the coach's rapport with the players, how the players respond to the coach, injuries, other factors outside of the club's control as well, such as player drama, scandals, or even being forced to be away from home for a long time. These can all affect, performance of a side. There is more factors in play than just wins and losses sometimes. I mean, look at these COVID times. It's inevitable. Like, there is going to be a coach sacked very soon. Like, if not the end of this year, like, it's going to be a few rounds into next season.
Yeah, I agree.
Obviously after the poor performance, everyone starts throwing Brownie into the mix. And I mean, Brownie's only just had the 1 year, and surely we've got to give him till the end of next year. And if there's no improvement, then maybe you look at making changes if it's warranted. If there's no improvement in the squad.
Mark Roberts has put 2 seasons minimum. I would agree with that. I would say 3 seasons, and the reason I would say 3 seasons is you've got to give them time to build their roster. A lot of these coaches come in and they inherit the squad from the previous coach. They inherit that recruitment, those players, and each coach has a different way of how they want the team to play footy. And there's certain players that play a certain way and the players that play a different way. But I think they've got to be given the opportunity to build the roster that they want. Now, a guy like Maguire, who's been at the Tigers for X amount of years now, he can complain all he wants, but he's built that squad.
That's his squad.
Apart from Mbai, who's moved on, and Packer, who's retired, he's pretty much built that squad. So he bought Dewey there. He bought Leiciano Leilua. He bought BJ Leilua. He bought James Roberts. He bought Ken Mamalo. He bought James Tarmo. So that's his squad. So if he's not getting the stuff out of his squad, that's on him. Whereas a guy like Brownie or Trent Barrett, for instance, or Kevy Walters at the Broncos.
Yeah, I forgot about Kevy. Yeah.
They've come in. This is their first year at that club. And you can see, like, Brownie got appointed midway through last year, and he went on a recruitment drive. And the guys that we bought for this season were all because of Nathan Brown. So he's worked his roster, he's tweaking his roster. There's some players that were still under contract that he was able to get rid of, and so forth. And so he's in the process of building his roster. And we said all along this year was going to be a building year, and it hasn't ended the way we wanted to. And we have had, and we'll get into our season review in a couple of weeks, but we have had a lot of interruptions with injuries and suspensions, and as a lot of clubs have. But we obviously don't have the depth that a squad like the Roosters have. But I think, we've got to give Brownie the opportunity. I think if Brownie doesn't make the 8 next year, then, the Warriors need to really start looking at what's next, because he's got the roster, he's got the players. Shaun Johnson's back, Adam Fanua-Blake's there. Josh Curran's had a great season, come along in leaps and bounds.
That's it. 100%. A fully fit Warriors side on paper should be playing finals footy every day of the week.
Correct. But I think coaches need to be given 3 years, like minimum 2, to get the results. And then, I know only 8 teams can finish in the 8, so you're never going to get. But a team like us or the Cowboys or the Broncos next year would like to be 7th, 8th, 9th, around that spot, because it's got to be, because teams like the Roosters, South, Manly, and the Storm and the Panthers are going to be there and around again. It's very rare that you have a side that is top of the table 1 year and then completely disappears the next, unless it's the 2011 Warriors going into 2012. But I agree. Brown has already shown he has no idea with bench rotation, and he hasn't made the obvious choices at critical times. I agree 100% with that, but I still think he's trying to get to know what he can and can't get out of his players. He probably sees a different side of them at training than what we're seeing at games, and that's one thing that Michael Maguire was big on in that Tiger Town documentary, was that the team that he saw on the training paddock was not the team that kept running out week after week for the Tigers. So, I'm not going to second guess an NRL coach, but I would say, 2 to 3 years. And I think the two guys under the most pressure at the moment are Ricky Stewart and Woogie. Yeah, because they've had time at their club to build their rosters, especially Stewart. Like the drop off from the Raiders this year, the inconsistency that they had was just.
It's interesting that he had hung his hat on the success of recruiting players from the Super League, and it's kind of come back to bite him a little bit now. You've had Johnny Bateman going out the door in controversial circumstances, not seeing out his contract, and then obviously the George Williams debacle this year that I guess kind of probably went a long way to derailing the side early on in the season. So that was, exactly. They were all saying he's done so well with his recruitment there, and now it's sort of come back and maybe it's not the success that we thought it was.
I think there's I think it's easy to get rid of coaches too, because like if you've got a 30-man roster and the team's not performing, it's so much easier to get rid of one guy than
full score
30 guys or 10 or 20 guys.
Yeah.
Sometimes you've got a coach that has a toxic relationship with his players. Jason Taylor at South Sydney had a relationship with, I remember David Failongo smacked him out at the...
that's right. They had a punch-up.
And then you had, at the Tigers, he refused to play Robbie Farah. I think there's some coaches who are a little bit toxic as well. Mikey Mitchell, top 8 next year or gone. For me, it'd be gone. We've got to be top 8 next year with the roster that we have. We've got good depth. If everyone's fit, we have great depth. And we've got to stop using that excuse that, so-and-so was injured and that, because you look at the Roosters, and the Roosters blooded some really good hits this year that really came through and stood up for them. And we just need to be able to build that kind of culture within our club, basically. So, I think top 8 or gone for me.
Mm-hmm.
Mate, I want to just touch on the NRLW season. Everyone knows I'm a massive fan of the NRLW. Supported it ever since its inception. Back in 2018, was at the Warriors' first game. Been to so many of the Warriors girls games over the past 3 seasons. Very fortunate to have a great relationship with a lot of the girls that played at the Warriors. It was decided this week or end of last week that NRLW season is going to be postponed, and it will be on in February 2022. Now, so it'll be a 7-week season, followed by their club seasons with their respective domestic clubs, Queensland Comp, New South Wales Comp, going into a second NRLW season. In between that, they'll have Origin. Then at the end of the year, they'll have a World Cup. Now, whilst this means there's a lot of women's rugby league for our elite stars next year, and for people like me who really enjoy watching the game, it in itself presents a massive problem. And we've got a special discussion coming up in a couple of weeks where we've got Georgia Hale, Karina Brown, and journalist Katie Brown coming on to have a chat about with us about all things NRLW and Women's Rugby League. And we'll get into more stuff on that night. But for me, here the problems are that the highest paid players in the NRLW, the top 30 that is, they receive $28,000 for their 7-week season. Now that sounds great, but if they are injured, they're not covered for loss of wages after that 7-week comp. And as you know, all these girls have full-time jobs. I was talking to a couple of girls from the North City Bears during the week about this, and the interesting thing that they highlighted was they have to save their annual leave up every year to be able to play footy. So it depends on where they're going to be playing. So they might end up signing at the Broncos. They've got to go and live in Brisbane for 6 weeks, so they've got to take annual leave because they live in Sydney but go and play at the Broncos. The girls this year all did a month's preseason, and they haven't been paid. And the NRL have said, no, we're not paying you. Now, Christian Welsh came out this week. He's the head of the Rugby League Players Association, and he said, look, for all the fines that players have had this year, there's $644,000 in a like little coffer. We can pay these girls the $500,000 that they're owed, because a lot of them have taken time off work that they're not getting paid for to train for a comp that is now being postponed, and they postponed it with 3 days' notice. Now, the interesting thing is there's 8 New Zealand girls that flew over here because the original comp was supposed to start in August. So they flew over in late June, early July. Then it was pushed back because of the COVID outbreak in Sydney. And they said, okay, we're going to start the comp at the end of the season. Pre-season starts, it's supposed to start this weekend. They're supposed to start their pre-season this weekend. And now it's been ended. No. But we've got these 8 New Zealand-based girls that have come away from their families, their jobs, and they're now stranded here because they can't get home.
Stuck. A tough scenario.
Absolutely. Yeah. And they were given 3 days notice of this. So we've got to remember that these girls are not full-time professional athletes. They're women, they're mothers, they work full-time, they study. And as I said, they need to save their annual leave to play in these elite competitions. At present, the NRLW is still an afterthought, and the NRL needs to stop with all the right sound bites about what they're doing for the women's game and start acting in support of these girls. Now, I don't have all the answers, obviously, but what they've done this season is pretty shit. And we copped a bit of it.
Strung them along a fair bit as well.
Well, we copped it at the beginning of the year when they said that they weren't going to help the Warriors put a team in the comp. So for us, we invested 3 years into a competition and a team that they said, no, you're in the too hard basket now. But as I said, in a couple of weeks, October the 13th, Wednesday, October the 13th, which is 2 weeks after the grand final. So we're going to have these wonderful women of rugby league come on our show and talk to us about what's going on with the women's game and the plights that they are facing at the moment. And like I said, they're all very happy that they're going to get a big calendar of rugby league next year. But as I said, if they get one injury and they're out for the season, that's it. They get no compensation because their contracts are only 7-week contracts. So something really needs to be done. Again, mate, they wouldn't move it to New Zealand because of the money that's involved. They're not. The NRL are not willing to put the money into the game, and they'll keep saying things like the girls don't create the interest. But you only have to look at the television numbers for Origin this year and the television numbers for the grand final last year. The girls' game is getting a following, and yes, it's not as big as the men's game, but it's getting to the point where they really have to start thinking about making, if they're fair income, making it professional. I think the best thing by them playing the comp in February next year is we get to put it up against the AFL comp, and the AFL do their women's comp so much better than the NRL. We'll get to see where we're at in February next year. And all I ask is, I know that the Warriors won't have a side. A lot of our Warriors girls are contracted to the Titans. You can actually get a Titans membership for the NRLW side only, which is $70. So if anyone wants to help out these girls and jump on board, you can become an inaugural Titans member for $70. I'm going to do it because I care about the women's game and I care about the women that are playing at the Titans next year. We have some good friends that are playing up there. So I'm going to get my Titans membership.
Definitely.
And that's merely a support. You get a Titans hat and all that kind of stuff. I won't be wearing it, but I'll get the membership to support the girls 100%.
Yeah, well said, mate. Yeah, we're looking forward to hearing from the girls in a few weeks.
Yeah, absolutely.
All about that. Final point for the set of 6. I want to talk about dead rubbers. Why do we struggle so much in dead rubber games? It's a question that's plagued us for a long time now. historically, after we slide out of finals contention, we just completely bomb out in the season. How many times have we done that? It's like we can't make the finals and we just go on a massive losing streak. Our win over the Raiders in the final round of 2019 was our first dead rubber win since beating the Raiders back in 2009 after we'd fallen out of finals contention. So that was our last 10 years to get another dead rubber win. It's disappointing, though, when you see other teams that are able to regroup and reward their fans with some sort of promise at the end of a tough season. It's even more disturbing when you're playing against an out-of-contention team and they just want it more than you. So why do we historically struggle with this? Is this a mental hurdle or is it a lack of professionalism? I've always wondered this. We never seem to be able to just regroup for those last couple of games, even if it's been the season's been a lost cause.
I'll say attitude and culture. That's all it can be, and Mark Roberts pointed out before, you have CHD come out in the interview before the game and saying, we've got nothing to play for. It's not the mentality to have in the business of rugby league and where you're getting paid, generous amounts of money to play a sport that some of us could only dream of doing as our full-time job. It's always something that I've struggled with as well. That dead rubbers and game ones of the season. We
always struggle with those, haven't we? Game ones.
We rarely win a game one of a season, and we very rarely win like the final round or the dead rubber game of a season. So, and for me, it's got to come down to attitude and the culture. It's no surprise that the Storm hasn't lost a round one game for, 20-something years now?
We beat them in 2000, and I think that was the last time they lost a round one game.
There you go. So, no culture. It's the culture. No matter what, it's always going to be part of the Warriors. It sucks. Yeah, I agree. It does.
Unfortunately, it's been the case. Prove us wrong, boys. That's all that can happen. Is like these start winning these games, change the culture. Whatever it is, it's because it gets frustrating. It really does when you see the same sort of thing happening year after year.
It does.
No matter who the coach is, the players, the CEO, all the staff, it can all be different, but the same kind of things tend to unfold on the field.
I had the foreboding of what was to come on Sunday for some reason, because we had the opportunity to stop a side from going through to the finals, and I just thought these are the games that we never turn up for. And it's sad when you support a team and you kind of have that mentality going into the last round. And I'm glad that we dropped out of finals contentions the weeks before, because I would hate to have seen us going into.
Imagine if it came down to that game and we put in that kind of performance, to try and make a final.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, mate, speaking of finals, should we have a look at what's coming up this weekend?
Yeah, mate. For the first time this year, we don't have to go through a Warriors 21-man lineup for the weekend. Instead, it is finals week 1. So Friday night, we've got the the Storm versus Manly at Sunshine Coast Stadium, which is kind of a home game for the Storm, really, isn't it?
Pretty much, yeah.
First versus fourth, the winner goes through to gets a week off and goes straight through to the grand final eliminator, and the loser plays again next week in the semis. So for the Storm, they're nearly back to full strength. Remus Smith, Justin Olam named in the centres. Cameron Munster named back at 5'8", still under a bit of an injury cloud though. Jesse Bromwich, Christian Welsh named back at the front row. Felice Kafusi and the baby Bigfoot, Kenny Bromwich back in the team as their edge back rowers. Dale Finucane at lock. Josh Addo-Carr not named due to his ongoing hamstring injury. And then for Manly, the only change is Josh Aloiai comes into the team at the expense of Tofa Sipley, who's pushed back to the extended bench. Sipley, Aloiai straight into the side, and I think it's Pasek that's gone back to the interchange bench. Mate, for me, the Storm, they've been dominant most of the season, haven't they? Bellamy will have them focused on a premiership run. However, I am reminded of their last month of footy, which was not that great, to be honest. And that Manly with less than 40% last time they met, only beaten by 10 points. Tommy Turbo on the biggest hot streak we've seen in NRL history. I'm going to lean towards an upset. I'm going to pick Manly in a really, really close one. But I'm going to pick, I got Manly for me for this game.
I see where you're coming from. I was tempted to, but then I remember it's the Storm, and the Storm keep on keeping on. I think it'll be a rip snorter of a match. I'm picking the Storm though in a close one there.
Yeah.
1-12. Country Bank Stadium is a double header up there. The Roosters versus the Titans, 5th versus 8th elimination final. The Roosters, Jared Warrior-Hargreaves and Victor Radley returned from injury and suspension respectively. Lachlan Lamb retains the halfback role with Sam Walker named on the bench, and the All-American quarterback Fletcher Baker returning from his layoff in Omaha, Nebraska, onto the bench. Titans, Kevin Proctor returns from his shoulder injury. Sam McIntyre moved to the extended bench, and no other changes from the team that horsewhipped us last week.
Yep. What are your thoughts, mate?
Mate, I think the Roosters will win. I think it'll be closer than people think. I think the Titans will give it a good shake, but I think the Roosters just continue on with what they've been doing for most of the season, and I think they'll have a little bit too much for the Titans. I'm picking Roosters in a close one.
I think the Roosters kind of getting back to full strength. When I say full strength, I mean players available full strength.
As much as possible.
Yeah. Jared Warrior-Hargreaves and Victor the Inflictor, they're massive ins. Lord Farquhar and Tupanua on the edges. The Titans did well last week to score points, but let's not forget who they were playing.
That's right. It has an asterisk next to it.
Yeah, the Roosters will offer much tougher opposition than we did. And as much as my heart says Titans, and purely for the fact that Sambo Skipper's up there and Paddy Herbert and Nez Clark, I think the Roosters will put a score on them. I'm picking a 13 points.
Yep.
The second game, mate, is the Panthers Rabbits. I think this will be the game of the round. The second elimination of the semi-finals. No, it's not. It's the second elimination of second versus third. Sorry.
Yep.
Winner goes through, gets a week off, and the loser plays again next week. Scott Sorensen is the only change to that Penrith squad through injury, busted ulnar, I think, and he's been replaced in the squad by Spencer Leniu. Interesting to know a quick stat on Spencer Leniu. I don't think he's lost a game of footy in his NRL career. He's a big in. The Bunnies have a host of stars returning who were arrested last week. Alex Johnson on the wing, Dane Gagai back into the centres, Cody Walker and Adam Reynolds back into the halves, Colin Matungi and Cam Murray both returned to the forward pack, Benji Marshall, Jacob Host, Tommy Burgess and Jai Arrow named on the bench, and Blake Tough named to be Latrell's replacement at fullback. Mate, Panthers are running red hot at the moment. The 1-2 punch on the edge, as I said, Kikau and Pangai, and then you've got Yo, Capewell, Fisher-Harris, Casper Martin, and then Moses Leota. They've got the hardest working forward pack in the competition. Going to be a great matchup between the Cyborg and Luai up against Reynolds and Walker. But I think the Panthers will just be too classy, and I will pick them. I don't think it'll be a blowout. I'll pick them 1-12. I think they'll get their 2 converted tries, maybe 13 field goal.
I'm going to pick a Panthers blowout. I think they're going to come out and have a statement win here. That's a strong team, and I think the Rabbitohs are a little bit under strength. I can see the Panthers going out there and having a strong win.
Latrell's a big out for them because he offers a point of difference back. And I think that's. I think once he was rubbed out for the rest of the season, I kind of put a line through South as a premiership threat.
That's what I was thinking. A little bit less potency in attack. So,
Yeah.
We'll see, though. We'll see. Sunday, Brown Park, Rocky. We're having the Eels versus the Knights, the second of the elimination final, 6th versus 7th. Eels back to full strength. Gutherson back to fullback. Brown and Moses in the halves. Regan Campbell-Gillard returns from his injury to join Junior Paulo in the front row. Lane, Niokore, and Nathan Brown make up the forward pack. Ray Stone at hooker. Isaiah Papali'i, a surprise selection on the bench. And Ryan Madison named on the extended bench. For the Knights, they welcome back both Saifidi twins, Daniel and Jacob in the front row, Tyson Frizzell and Mitch Barnett, who were both rested last week, returning in the back row, and Jaden Brayley returning at hooker. I can see the Eels getting the job done here. In a close one, though. I think it'll be closer than most people would think. The Knights, I think a little bit of stuffing might have been knocked out of them with that loss last week. And I think with the Eels back to full strength, might just have a bit too much.
Yeah, like Frizzell, Mitch Barnett, the Saifidi twins, great ins for the Knights. I expect Isaiah Papali'i to start, and maybe Niokore or Sean Lane, Fish Eyes, to go back to the bench. I also expect if Ryan Madison's named on the extended bench, you're going to play him in a semi-final. So I expect him to come into the squad. The selection of Ray Stone at hooker is a weird one because he's an edge back rower. So playing a guy that doesn't play hooker, not a normal dummy half, I think is going to affect their go forward a little bit around the ruck. Will Smith will come on, the Fresh Prince. He'll come on and he'll play that bench role for them. But, yeah, I'm leaning towards a Knights victory here. I just think Mitch Pearce with his game smarts, Kalen Ponga at the back, and that Jaden Brayley at hooker, getting that. I think that spine of the Knights is a better spine than the spine at the Eels. Yeah, I mean Gutho, yeah, he's the king, but Mitch Moses still hasn't proven.
Jury's still out on Mitch. Yep.
And same with Dylan Brown. Yeah, so for me, mate, I'm going to say Knights 1-12.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right, watch party. We mentioned that before. As we mentioned last week, we're going to be planning to do a watch party this weekend and probably most weekends over the finals.
Yeah.
We'll be doing one on Saturday night for the match between the Panthers and the Rabbitohs.
Yeah, going to be a good one, mate. Going to be a good opportunity to have a watch party without the pressure of emotion
that's it.
to come into it. Just be able to appreciate a game of footy and what have you. So, yeah, if anyone would like to join us on screen for that watch party or any of the watch parties we're going to have over the next 4 weeks, just send us a message either through the Roo Hammer on Instagram or Roo Hammer on Facebook. And we'll get back to you. Try and organise to get that set up. But we've got some guests coming up too, mate. Who we got coming up?
We sure do. We've got Josh Curran on Wednesday, 15th of the 9th. So make sure you tune in for that. So Cam George, next Wednesday.
Yep.
So Josh Curran, put that in your diaries. Cam George will be joining us on Wednesday, the 29th of September.
Yep.
We're going to be doing our end of season review on Wednesday, the 6th of October. And our special guests will be Brad and Richie from The Standoff and also Arpai from Hold the Ball. And our Women in League special will be on Wednesday, the 13th of October. We'll be joined by NRLW stars Georgia Hale, Karina Brown, and NRL journalist Katie Brown. After that, Wednesday, the 20th of October, we've got PJ Marsh coming in for a chat. And then Kiwi and NRL legend Mark Graham and former Warriors coach as well, coming in for a chat with us on the 27th of October. And plenty more to be announced as well in the coming weeks as we lock in some dates.
Absolutely, mate. Yeah, we've still got a couple in the pipeline that we're just trying to lock in some dates, which include past Warriors and a couple of this year's current Warriors that we're trying to lock in. We're in a couple of little discussions at the moment with Cody Nikarima, Ewan Aitken, Roger Tuivasa-Sheck. So hopefully we can bring those guys to you in the coming weeks. But as announced last week and the week before, we are now on Patreon, which is our membership platform, enabling people to show their support for us and our content by signing up for a monthly subscription. It's a platform where we set up different tier levels of subscriptions that suit your budget. Each tier level will have its own rewards and benefits, including exclusive Patreon-only merchandise that will be available soon. Mate, saw some of the images of the stuff in production yesterday. It looks pretty good, doesn't it?
It's looking very sharp. You guys are going to love some of the merchandise that we got coming out, so stay tuned. You'll get a preview of it very soon. You can head to our Patreon page to show your support and subscribe to our bronze tier Patreon that is available now. Our bronze tier is set at the lowest amount possible at $3 a month, which is less than a cup of coffee. We've partnered with Torius Screen Print to produce a range of merchandise for us, which will be available very soon, as we said. There will also be some exclusive Patreon-only merchandise for our silver, gold, platinum, and diamond level Patreon tiers. Patreon tiers will not be for sale and will be only available to Patreon members.
Absolutely. And we'd like to thank our those who have subscribed to our Patreon program so far. On our bronze tier, we've got Daniel Delore, Peregrine Falconer, Sean Kurzweil, the Kirch, Nick McKercher, Mary Carter, Fabian Moroa, Ciala Afamasanga, our mate Stevie Williams, and of course Christian Catley from Warriors NRL Fanatics. So we thank you guys very, very much and appreciate all your support.
Salute to you guys. Thanks. Don't forget, if you miss any of our live shows, you can catch up on our Facebook page by going to the videos section, or you can go to our YouTube channel and catch up there. Don't forget to hit subscribe on our YouTube channel so you'll never miss any of our streamed content, any other content that we'll be putting up on YouTube. If you're a podcast fan, then you can catch us on all the episodes on the podcast platforms, including Spotify, Apple, Google, Breaker, Radio Direct, and iHeartRadio. And make sure you subscribe to us there. We upload our episodes so that they're ready to listen to every Thursday morning. And please head to our Roo Hammer Instagram, where we'll upload content daily to keep our followers informed of all our upcoming events.
Absolutely. And in answer to Stevie Williams, how do I up my platform to Diamond? It's not available yet, mate, but once the other tiers become available, it's just as simple as
just upgrading, I believe. Yeah,
upgrade, and you'll upgrade to the next tier. The only thing is, because there's going to be merchandise involved with the other tiers, instead of being a monthly subscription, it's going to be a monthly subscription paid annually, because we're giving you merchandise as such. There's going to be an upfront cost rather than a monthly cost.
Yeah, exactly right. But you won't want to miss it. It's going to be great stuff.
And it's just so that we're not out of pocket, because the merch that we're giving away is obviously costing us money to create, and we don't want to have people signing up for a monthly subscription. They pay the first month, we send out their merch, and then they cancel, and
yeah, and it leaves us high and dry a bit.
People do that, but there's the possibility that it could happen. So yeah, we just we need to
cover our bases. Yep.
Yeah, basically that's it. But yeah, aside from that, that's it for tonight. We thank everyone for coming in and joining us on this live feed on both Facebook and YouTube. As Rob said, can always catch up on our podcast platforms or go to our video sections and rewatch. If you're keen to jump on for this week's watch party, Saturday night, the second game, Panthers versus Rabbitohs, send us a message and we'll hook you guys up. Always a bit of fun.
Organise something. Yeah, it's great fun. Yeah, no better way to watch a game of footy.
Absolutely. But aside from that, we look forward to those who will join us on Sunday and Saturday, and we look forward to everyone joining us next week. And just a shout out to my mum, whose birthday it is this week. So
happy birthday, Mrs. Carter.
Happy birthday to Mum. There should be something coming in the mail for you, because I can't get up there and see you myself. So keep an eye out for a package. But aside from that, stay safe, everyone. Mate, you have a good week.
You too, mate. Take care down there. and everyone else, enjoy the rest of your week, and we shall see you guys on Saturday.
Sure.
Cheers.